Okay, welcome back to another talk here on the Wisdom app. My name is Daryl Ledyard. I'm so grateful to have you here listening to some of the content and some of the ideas that I have on different things in life. I come to this with experience in business and as a father and as a person that has just walked a journey, as well as you. You have walked a journey in this life, and you certainly have things that you can share as well on here, either as a guest or as a speaker, whatever it might be. Everybody's got a book in them. Everyone has something that is a part of them that would allow them to give just a piece of their experience, of their journey to someone else and help them along the way. And if that isn't what this is all about, I don't know what it is because the journey all the time, we have people that come into our lives that help us along the way, and they help us to see things differently. It helps us to uh, understand the world in a different light and to see things in a different way. And that's what this journey is all about, right? Is helping one another out on the journey and learning from each other and growing from one another. This app purports to be about the democratization of mentorship. And could you be mentored by just about anyone? Really, they all have somebody always has something that they could give you a piece of advice because we all have our strengths, right? We all have our strengths and our weaknesses. And one person can always be there for you as a strength. And that's what it's all about. Okay. So today I'm going to bring up a guest. We're going to have a little bit of a longer talk here today with a gentleman named Peter Lucas, who I met on this app. And he's such a gentle soul and he has so much to add. And when we talked about the idea of talking about meditation, faith, prayer, as a human technology, he was fascinated by the idea. So we decided to open up the talk to an hour here and to talk a little bit more in depth with Peter about this concept. Because really, what is technology, right? What is technology out there in the world? Is it something that augments and supports us to become better in some way, shape, or form? And the question today is that I pose is meditation, is giving up and letting God and all of these kinds of things, letting the universe, whatever it might be, is that a form of technology that helps us to navigate this world in a way that makes us better, right? So welcome to the talk, Peter Lucas. How are you today?
Wow. Hey, brother. I'm so excited to be here, man. I asked special permission just just to be here with you. So I'm really excited. And I always love to start with a sense of gratitude. I love where you bring the conversation, but just to let you know, the reason why I do that on purpose, right, is because when you start with gratitude, you just started from a place of actually giving and receiving at the same time, in my opinion. So that's why I always start off with gratitude and just say, like, thanks for holding this space. Thank you for being such a beautiful human being. And, I'm here to share with you my own personal experience through yoga, meditation, how it helped me through anger and anxiety, and how I healed myself without medicating myself. So I'm excited to share that with the world. And starting with you, I think that's a good place.
Well, thank you so much for taking your time out of your day to do this. It's very special to me that you did, and you're willing to take some time. I take notes with all of the speakers and guests that come on here to talk, and I always get some amazing things when you come on here. So I am the student. I'm here to listen and learn from you because let me do a little backstory about me, and then I'm going to ask you to give me a little bit of backstory about how this has been affecting you.
Sure thing.
For me, I have never been really great at meditation, faith, and prayer. Okay, but I've always been a fan of it because I've been a fan of how it affects people and how it changes people. Like you mentioned, gratitude early on here, and I look at it all in the same area. I have a dog and the dog will eat a snack no matter what kind of day it's having. It literally has about, a handful of functions that the dog will do. That's nature, right? A tree is a tree and it does what it does, right? All these things in nature have a limit to what kinds of functions that they can take place in. But as a human, we have these things where we can take our brains and take our souls and our minds and our spirits, and we can take them to a place where we commune with the universe, or we commune with a higher power of some kind, or let go and let God, that concept, okay? And it can reduce anxiety. It can make you feel bolder in navigating this world. And I'm just a fan of it, despite the fact that I'm not the greatest at it. Okay. I'm not a great person for prayer myself, but I really truly believe in it, that if it works for you or works for somebody out there listening in the audience, that's what's important. Is, does it bring you to a higher level? Does any of this stuff bring you to a higher level? And for many, many people that I've known, it really has. And that's why I wanted to bring you on here today for a longer talk, because you have such a peace about you. And you've talked about how you had anger in the past, and you've released an old version of Peter Lucas to bring to life this new version. And I just want to get to know more about that. So, can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Yes, 100%. It's such a beautiful narrative, and how you really frame it. I would say that I would be really interested in it being a dialogue vice some type of student-teacher conversation. And the reason why I say that, and the reason why I start there, is because, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
every single human being is connected with the same frequency from the source of creation. And I actually have some evidence for this. From nothing, something happened. Bang!
Mm-hmm.
The cosmos erupted. Protons, neutrons, electrons, and a couple other things that were formed during the Big Bang. Clouds amassed from all these particles contracted upon itself. With such intensity, stars were created. Exhausted their fumes, collapsed on itself, exploded, created more dust, continued. Millennia later, our own star was born. Rocks were rolling around the Oort belt. Some of them came out of position. One of them started being bombarded by other rocks with a perfect distance from our star for our ozone layer to be formed. Water came from the atmosphere, moved across the land. Plants were birthed. Somehow life came from these rocks. Things moved around, cataclysms, volcanoes erupted, more rocks bombarded the planet. A piece of rock came out of the planet and started orbiting the atmosphere and started controlling the movement of the oceans. Humans evolved from all of this. My mother was born. That same rock that extracted from the earth was moving around. We call it the moon. It affected her menstrual cycle. I was born. Somehow I'm here talking to you. Brother, every time I think about the amount of things that needed to happen for me to be here and express any form of, recognition of a cosmos or a divine being that made all of that happen, I can't see how intelligence wasn't behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And if a human being truly felt even a minuscule percent of what that is, I think they would show up different in the world. I think they would have more gratitude for life. I think they would treat each other better. And so that's why, for all of those things to happen, there is no way I could elevate myself beyond another sentient being, not even a plant. Because as we know it, as evidenced by COVID, if all the human beings were to be removed from the planet would flourish.
Mm-hmm.
If you remove a microbe from the planet, let's go with something that people think are insignificant, bees. If bees go from this planet, everybody here dies.
Very true.
So our connection is a whole lot deeper than we really think, and this separatist movement, this isolation effort, is a detriment to our species, and that is what yoga is to me. Yoga means union, and meditation is an aspect of yoga.
So when you start your day or you close out a day, is there anything that you use as part of your routine or your ritual that sets you up for this kind of appreciation of the kind of Jenga stack that's under everything that is you? How do you frame that up for yourself, and how do you show that appreciation or gratitude, or what is the structure in which you set your intentions like that?
I appreciate the question, and I love the frame Jenga stack. And I steal that. I steal people's stuff all the time, but I credit them.
Yeah.
I really, really love that thought process.
Well, we are fragile, right? I mean,
right.
the foundation of everything that we are is a bit fragile, like a Jenga stack. So yeah, we got to be careful. Absolutely.
You do have to be careful, and that's why I walk so gingerly, and that's why I try to use my words so purposefully, because, let there be light, and there was light. Those are words. So just like I'm greeting you with grace, harmony, and humility, so shall it be. Okay, when it comes to like my routine, and you referenced the morning, was that correct?
Yeah, the morning or the evening, whatever it is,
morning or the
because
evening.
I'm the student, so I'm trying to learn from you.
Right, and see, this is exactly why I started that way, to say let it be a dialogue, not student teacher, because believe it or not, I learn from you. That's why I come listen to you.
Oh, thank you so much.
I don't just come here. Yeah, I don't just come here to amplify myself. I don't put myself in positions where growth is not possible. So I'll just put that out there.
I would be honored if you get even an ounce of growth from me. I really 100%. Would be. Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, so I really love how you framed it. You said day or night, because actually that's typically not how people ask me that question. They ask me for the takeaway. What's the one thing, Peter? What's the one thing I can do? Mm-hmm. What's the quick tip? How do I get there without doing any of the work? Really, that's really the crux of the question. So I'm glad how you asked the question, because for me, actually, my morning routine starts the night before. So I'll give you like a really simple thing. I actually guide people through this. I help them to design lives that are on purpose, and I use tools and technology, yoga, meditation, journaling, mindfulness, creative visualization. All of the tools that help me, I offer it to people so that they can navigate the world with a bit more purpose and a bit more clarity. So one of the things that I do, and I'll kind of explain the whys also, is about 4 hours before bed, my partner and I eat our last meal. The reason is because, science shows that it takes about 4 hours, for your food to digest. But it also depends on what you're eating, right? And so I don't eat meat. My partner doesn't eat meat. We eat fish occasionally. So take for example, like we stop eating right about like 5 or 6 p.m. And we don't go to bed until around 9 or 10, depending on when our day ends. We may do some light reading or something, but that's kind of like the last time food enters our body. Why is that significant? Because while you're sleeping, your energy, right? Your ability to digest food goes down a whole lot. I'm talking about like 80% of your potential for the digestive process. But all these other things in your body still needs to happen, right? Your kidney needs to function. Your heart still needs to beat. You still need to turn short-term memory into long-term memory, and all of these things need to happen in your body. But your ability to, process energy goes down a whole lot. And so what happens if you eat meals, close to your bedtime, approximately 20 to 40% of your energy goes into the digestive process. So imagine what's happening to your body and your system's getting overworked. So it's not like a reason for, like harping on anyone for what they do. I'm just talking about the process that happens in your physiology that you can't avoid. Every human being has that same process. So what that also does is it means that the 6 to 8 hours that I sleep is actually a whole lot deeper than a lot of people's 8 to 10, because I'm able to dip into REM sleep a whole lot quicker than another person can if they're eating later at night. So you see, it's really like, really stacking that up, right? Imagine 20 years of that, what that will do.
Right. Yeah.
I actually have evidence from it in pictures since I started doing that, where I started to actually look younger, Daryl. It's amazing.
The more I eat, I look more like this avatar that you see up here. No, just kidding. No, I've never heard that before, and that makes a lot of sense, because I believe really that the gut is the most intelligent part of your body and the most powerful part of your body to manifest. And so, if what you're saying is true in science, that allowing your gut to process so that you can then be in your nighttime being able to reset yourself with the universe, that makes sense to me, but I might be getting ahead of the story, so I'd like to learn more.
Yes, no, that's fine. But anybody that's listening right now can go research it themselves and see the truth. The science is there. But the thing that really amazes me is the yogis, gurus, and mystics knew this all along. I'm always baffled. How did they know? Why is it that every spiritual practice on the planet involves fasting? Because they know you need to give your body some time to rest as well. The digestive process takes a lot of energy. So even this one thing you can manipulate throughout your life, oh my God, the amount of power it will give you. So another thing that I do now is when I wake up in the morning, the first thing that I do, now that I'm with my partner, I'll just roll over right next to her. I'll look at her, and I will say this mantra inside of my being towards her, that your life will be better because of me. That's the first thing that I do. It's beyond my own appreciation for my life. I have initially dedicated my life to the enhancement of another person. So it may seem like an unselfish thing, but actually it's not. Science also shows that when you give of yourself, you actually cause yourself to receive a heightened sense of pleasure.
That's funny you say that, because I really feel like this was an adventure starting my speaking on this app, and literally it's addictive. The sensation of giving any kind of help to people, and people have been reaching out to me and telling me that some of these talks have touched them or helped them, and just the idea of that. So I totally get what you're talking about.
Right? It's in our biology.
Yeah.
So when we're being selfish, we're actually doing ourselves an extreme disservice.
Disservice. Yeah.
Right? It's not something like, oh, all for me means all for me. All for me means you become disconnected with how you are biologically wired to be. Even if you think about the concept of how we evolved through tribes. and we evolved by sticking together. And a person navigating the world when we were evolving would not be able to survive. They would either get killed off by a wild animal or the weather would just destroy them. So we formed these bonds for specific reasons. It's not like something arbitrary. So I start the morning off that day, and like I said, I'm thinking about my morning routine way, like it's like 12 hours before. I'm thinking about how I'm going to wake up in the morning. So then the next thing I do is I actually created a meditation for myself, actually. But it turned out that people really enjoyed it. I started to send it out to a few people just willingly, and they really enjoyed it. And so I put it in a course that we call A Life on Purpose Online, and it's called 21 Minutes for Self-Care. Because I started the morning with giving to my partner before she even wakes up. I always wake up before, military training. I can't help myself. I just wake up. I just wake up early.
Yeah.
And then now I look at, okay, let me give some care to myself. And I just lay in bed and do the meditation. And it just, it's pretty much like a scanning of the body. And I call it self-care because, oftentimes we ignore ourselves. We ignore the things that our body is trying to tell us. Our body is very communicative. That pain in your back might not just be a pain in your back. That headache might not just be a headache. You might need to remove yourself from a situation or a relationship. That feeling in your gut may be your intuition trying to tell you something.
Very good.
So I scan my body, and I always leave a journal right next to me because every morning when I finish my meditation, and I grab my journal, I have something to write. Because something came to me, and all I did was made myself available to it. That's really all that's so much power. Imagine a lifetime of that, where you're just leaving yourself open for your intuition to unfold, for things that you may not even realize you noticed throughout the day, like an idea might have came for a business or something, or you needed to get something done and your mind just kind of came up with it, but you're so enamored by your alarm clock and what you need to do that you missed learning how to be.
Yeah, it makes me sit back and imagine a browser on the internet. I mean, the internet has a lot of information. You have to kind of search for what you're looking for. But imagine what you're talking about, Peter, is basically you wake up in the morning and you put a pen to the journal with no preconceived notion of what's going to come through you. But because of the way you're living your life, with a sense of gratitude, with a sense of calm and peace, meditative balance, if you will, it's like a browser that sort of brings the pages to you instead of you going to the pages. They start to show up. And I really truly believe that this is sort of the way of, a blessed person has a network that just starts to blossom, right? I mean, we all take our first steps. Like I'm taking a step here to be on this app, and I'm meeting wonderful, kind people like yourself, right? And putting myself out there. But there's a part of me that is saying, listen to my gut about what to ask Peter, right? And so I'm another human that's integrating with this conversation. You and I are integrating with this conversation with one another. And you're going to have something that comes through that if you're peaceful on your mind, you're going to be agile enough to pick that up from source or wherever it's coming from. I don't know where it's coming from. But it's the right thing that comes through. I think when you have yourself in such a way that you're open and ready for that. And I, by no means, think that I'm at as much peace or clarity as you are with your practice and your life. But I do listen to my gut, and I do listen to what I feel is my connection to source. And so I get what you're saying. You're taking a piece of paper, you're journaling, you're writing it down, but you're also kind of listening. Is that right to say?
I would say 100%. You're right about that. I really love how you describe things, brother. You have a really, really good way of doing that, especially when you talked about the browser where you open the laptop and the information comes to you instead of you going to it. I definitely feel that way. I designed my own process for this. It's not just, like I said, it's not just one thing. I'm navigating the world a certain way. I'm doing specific practices. I'm reading certain books. Just like I told you this morning when you messaged me, I said, I got to ask my partner because I have dedicated a day to her. Right. And she knows me very well that if 10 people message me and said, hey, Peter, let's talk today. If she left me to myself, I would say yes. So, we had to have that conversation. To say, okay, I'm going to dedicate this time to you. You have your time to work. She had something to do anyway. And so she's like, okay, you can have your call, but when I'm done, you're done within an hour. So I'm like, okay. And we'll go back to spending the time together. And so one of the things that I'll tell people is, people like the references. So even if I say that, someone may be listening to my voice that doesn't know me, but I'm sure that people may have heard of a guy named Tom Bilyeu.
Yeah,
right?
of course. Yeah.
Billionaire business. Look up something he calls thinkitation. What I just described to you, he calls it thinkitation. What he does is doing his meditative practices. He leaves a book right next to him and he just goes into a meditative practice, and all his business ideas, he credits to that process. If you've heard of a guy named Vishen Lakhiani, who is the founder of Mind Valley, one of the most comprehensive and phenomenal personal growth programs right now on the planet. Millions of students applied. Credits the same thing to these processes. Michael Jordan, right? If you look at the new series that he has out, his coach was doing meditation with the Bulls during the time where they were winning all those championships, and nobody knew it.
Yeah, the secret comes out. Wow.
Yes, nobody knew it back then, but now we know. This is the secret that was navigating people through these things for millennia.
Well, that's why I bring up the point of, is it a human technology? Because, like I said, the other animals and parts of nature, may commune with the source. I don't know. But when it comes to the practice, and this is a practice that gets improved upon, and this is a what do you want to call it? Like an action that you perfect, or a habit that you perfect and work on, like almost like a sport, like an athlete would do, right? The better you get at this, the better your performance is. So to me, that is a technology, right? That is taking a part of our just human nature and taking it to another level using a practice.
You said something earlier, and I'm so glad it came back here. You said that you don't think you're anywhere of the same piece as me or an aspect of the practice, and I would actually challenge that. I would challenge it because when it comes to outward achievements, so for example, you're a really great speaker and you've talked a little bit about what you did in your own life, and in those ways externally, for example, you can become more enhanced. For me, for example, I was a Marine for almost 2 decades, so probably like breaking down a weapon system or talking about the nomenclature of the M16A2 service rifle is maybe a little bit different, right? I can have that advantage there because I've done it for so long. But when it comes to internal work, there is no space and time. There is no person that is above you when it comes to your connection to the source of creation. It may take time to a certain extent as we define time because of our own inability to access it, to let go. It's not that it's unachievable or that it's hard. We make it hard. So, for example, I had to let go of a lot of things in my own life. Like the other day, I sold my car because my partner and I are actually moving overseas. And it just hit. I was actually making a video about this. just as a goodbye to my car, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it just came to me like, oh my goodness, this car actually represents my past because I
Mm.
bought a um, Icelandic metallic blue BMW Coupe 328i because I knew it would attract women.
Mm-hmm.
And although my intentions were changed, I still carried this around with me. So it still represented that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the same way how I carry that car around, we carry around what we carry around, the abuse, the neglect, the
Mm-hmm.
social structures, how people treated us, the color of our skin, the passport we had, how people talk to us, we carry it around. And so this is the art of yoga and meditation, is to peel it away a little bit so your divine self can unfold. Because the divine self is within. There's actually nothing you need to do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I totally agree that the divine self is complete in every one of us. And it seems like it's a peeling away process to reach enlightenment and to reach clarity, right? Um, it's always been that way for me. Like I've always thought in almost everything in life, it's like I was a DJ for a number of years. In fact, I just DJ'd a party recently. And as a DJ, okay, it's about what you don't play that
Mm.
makes the dance floor work, right? Same thing with everything in business that I have seen. When opportunities come your way, it's the opportunities you don't do that make you successful. And being able to
Mm.
pick and choose those things and find the things that are aligned with your purpose and aligned with what your overall goal is, right? It's a subtraction mathematics more than any other kind of mathematics that makes you multiply. If you don't learn the subtraction, you won't multiply.
Mm. Right. I love that because people struggle with this, I think, sometimes because they don't want to say no. But I think what people forget is that you're always saying no to something.
True.
Every time you say yes to something, you're always saying no to something. And I guess to get back to where you asked, an initial question that I didn't get to, because I was expanding a bit on the thought process that one person is more enhanced internally than another, and I personally challenged that because I thought the same thing. And the reason why this can be a dangerous thing is because people also use that to elevate themselves above, communities and things of that nature, especially in the spiritual communities. And this is how cults are formed
Hmm.
because people forget that the divine nature is within you, and now you've attached your divinity to someone in the same realm as you. And no one should really ever do that. It can actually be dangerous. A guru, a yogi, a preacher, a
Mm-hmm.
teacher, or even me is a tool. I am not to be held above you. I am to be used as any other tool, just like yoga is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I call myself a conduit for evolution. I am simply there to help unfold the highest version of yourself. I should never be looked at as the highest possibility for you.
Very true. Very true. I because I have no degree in any kind of spirituality or anything due to a faith or anything like that. You kind of think you have this imposter
Mm.
situation. But then I also know that like many people have said that there is a nature in the way I speak or the things that I try to teach or the things that I'm interested in our human capacity that makes me eligible to kind of speak to these concepts. They're to me, they're concepts that I can't stop thinking about,
Mm.
you know?
I think that shows that there is a wisdom that goes beyond the degree, right? A wisdom that has um, lasted for millennia. Because where did intellect come from before we created the degree?
Well, that's true.
It must have been there,
Correct.
but somehow we now take intelligence and put it into one sphere. Actually, this is such an important topic, Daryl, because before I was 22 years old, I actually didn't think I had any type of intelligence. Because everything that interested me, I was told I couldn't make money doing it. Everything that I was curious about, I was told that I shouldn't be curious about. Every book that I wanted to read, I was told it was not on the reading list.
Mm.
And so what happens is people who are highly skilled, highly intellectual, think they are not because they think that they wanted to pursue was subjugated by institutions who made you think that intellect or intelligence only has one form. But that doesn't make any sense. Actually, Howard Gardner wrote a very fascinating book called The Theory of Multiple Intelligences. This is why I said until I was 22, because until I read that book, I thought that the lie was truth. I thought that intelligence meant I need to have a degree. I didn't realize there were multiple forms of intelligences. You are telling me that Mozart was not intelligent? How about Shakespeare? Where's his
Right.
degree?
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. I mean, to drive a tractor trailer, I think I need a CDL license and some training behind me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to be a human, it doesn't require some kind of piece of paper to have thoughts of the divine and to have thoughts of knowing beyond evidence something like that gut um, relationship that you have with whatever the divine is or whatever the universe is, like whatever all of this is, being able to play with that every day, whether you're doing yoga or meditation or just some sort of being quiet like I do. This is what I do: is I just get really quiet with my mind and just try to just feel what I feel coming through, and that's all I do. I don't have any training or anything like that. But we are all students of ourselves and how to be a human. And like I said, um, I should give myself permission to just be free to be a human.
And I guess such a fabulous point, because what technology have we found that could even be close in comparison to that of the human mechanism? And what if you became a student of yourself? What if you started to study what it means to be human and realize that it's not that you need to try to be superhuman. The concept is that being human is super. We have forgotten so much about the capacity that we have as human beings to be expressive, to be infinitely potential, just to connect to something so much higher. We could be anything. You could be anything that you want to be. But the thing is, the moment you were born, the very moment you were born, someone decided to indoctrinate you into something. You couldn't escape it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The moment you were born, your parents decided, oh, he needs to go to this school, or he needs to play with these toys, or the blah, blah. And all of these things now, and now, for example, I'm 40 years old, and I really thought that before I started this process, like about 4 years ago, but a little bit longer to when my son was born, I really thought that I was making my decisions based off my intellect, but it's actually not true. It's all these, and the science shows this as well. Most of our decisions, about 80 to 90% of them, comes from how we've been indoctrinated into different philosophies, theologies, education system, where you work, where you live. All these things get imprinted upon you. So the technology, just like you talked about, yoga and meditation, is to peel those things away. so that your true nature could unfold. Every time a spiritual leader talks about this, they talk about being like a child. Jesus talked about it. Buddha talked about it. It's the same thing, because we have lost our identity and imprinted the identity that is actually doesn't exist, because it's a construct of the human mind. We attach our beauty on our work by the perception of the world, instead of having an intrinsic place where we're connected to the source of creation. For me, though, the concept that yoga and meditation is a technology and faith, I would 100% agree. But I don't think it's a technology that doesn't exist in nature. I think that some wonderful beings spent dedicated, consorted efforts in silence to feel their breath, to feel the air, to sit in forests, to spend time in the Himalayas. Think about the work that a human being had to go through to discover that technology. My goodness, I am so grateful for that. Because now I can practice something that was passed down with such authenticity, such grace. Because, often we think that we're seeing the world as it is, but it's impractical when you're carrying around all the filters from your life. So I would say that, if any person does a spiritual practice with complete and utter devotion, I guarantee you they will be enhanced. Guarantee it.
That's very interesting. As you were talking to, and I was thinking in my mind about the humpback whale, or like these elephants, and different creatures that do walk this earth outside of the human species, and you really do wonder. And even like a tree, could a tree actually be very spiritual? Sometimes there's trees that have sort of this, I don't know, like a natural, I don't know. So I don't know enough to say, but it just seems as though maybe this is more than a human experience. Maybe there is more of this going on. But I'm thinking, like, just like primates, and like your dog, is your dog using meditation? Maybe they are. Maybe they're, maybe the cat is, because the cat takes all these naps, maybe it's maybe the cat is convening. Who knows? But I'd love, after you're done speaking later on, if people want to join in and give us your input, I would welcome that. And please be sure to follow Peter Lucas on this app. He always drops great information, no matter what room you're in. And I was so grateful that you're willing to spend some time with us today. So you can go for as long as you want, or wherever works for you. But
I have 18 minutes as per my
your allocation. I get
right,
it. So let me stop chewing up your time. Give us some more information. I'm ready for it.
Oh, sure. I guess I can kind of go back to the question about my day. We were navigating that a little bit earlier, and I guess, if someone is listening, they can piece it together, right? From the things that I was saying, because that's how it is, and the Bible talks about it, right? It's line upon line, precept upon precept. It's not just going to come to you in your lap, because if it was easy to live a life on purpose, then everybody would be living one. Obviously, there's something involved that we're not doing. And I really believe that it's that lost technology, the same thing that helped the Egyptians do what they needed to do, the Mayans. It's lost technology. We just need to rediscover it, because it's actually inside of all of us. So I talked a little bit about the night before, what I do, the morning when I wake up, and my also my practice of meditation in the morning. I actually designed my own to fit what I think I need, and it seems to be helping people. So after that, I typically get up out of bed. My partner is still typically asleep. It's like about 6 a.m. or something like that. And I typically start the day off understanding or implementing a practice of making sure I remind myself of something about life.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I mean by that? I either go by the window or go outside, especially if it's a little bit chilly, and I'll expose myself to the cold. Or I'll go in the shower and I'll always make sure that I turn the water just a little bit above the comfort level. So it's always a bit cold in my showers. I actually don't enjoy it, but I do it for that reason, and I'll explain to you why. If you look at nature, right, and you look at how a tree grows, this actually fascinated me. How can a tree, starting from a shrub or, a root or, a pea or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
How can it grow against gravity?
Yep.
Imagine the struggle. If you ever watched a child walk, it's amazing. The struggle, the striving.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do it. And so starting the day off with that actually reminds your body that some of that struggle is necessary. And actually, it turns
Mm.
out, after I started doing the research, I found this guy called Wim Hof. Have you heard about him?
No, I have not.
Oh my goodness. You
Wayne,
have to look.
what is the spelling last name?
I think it's Wimhof. Let me actually look. It's called the Wim Hof Method. He has been breaking records all over the globe, showing that actually a human being immersing themselves in cold can actually extend their life. There is science to this.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. I was just doing it naturally by exposing myself just beyond my comfort level. But I'll tell you where I actually got it from. I got it from the aspect of growth. Because when you think about growth, growth always lies just beyond your comfort level, doesn't it? If
Mm-hmm.
anyone's here have ever been to the gym and you're trying to get a little bit stronger, don't you have to just push yourself just a little bit to
Yes.
tear those muscle fibers just a little bit? It's uncomfortable. It hurts. You don't really like it, but you know that it's
Yeah.
in the striving. So every time you feel yourself getting a little bit too comfortable, make yourself a little bit uncomfortable. Because actually, that's how you're able to appreciate life, isn't it? It's because
Mm-hmm.
what you know you don't appreciate. It's by comparison. The only reason you know hot is because of cold. Up because you know down. In because you know out. So
Very
if you
true. Yeah.
practice a certain aspect of discomfort, you will actually make yourself incredibly resilient. We do this actually in the military all the time. That's why our training is set the way it is, because it's to build resilience and tolerance for war. Because when you're in a combat zone or something like that, if
Mm-hmm.
you haven't conditioned your body and mind a certain way, it will crack.
Can I ask another question? You brought up your comfort zone and working beyond the comfort zone and actually setting yourself up to be uncomfortable as a practice, almost like a technology. And it got me thinking about the way people can transform suffering
Mm.
into being blessed in some ways. And I'm wondering if you have anything to add about, suffering and how that can be processed and as like a technology, basically. If you have the suffering that you go through, or whether it is intentional, like you said, the Himalayas and living in a climate that's very, very difficult, right? Some people say, "Oh, I would never want to live in that kind of environment," where some wonderful people live in that environment and they quote suffer through tough winters. They suffer through things that other people just are not willing to. But maybe they find a way, and just I would love your 2 cents on it. Find a way to convert that suffering into spirituality or into something that benefits them.
There are so many stories of this. If you look at typically people who achieve great things and you read their stories, there's typically an aspect of suffering involved. Typically. I'm not talking about the Buddha. That's another way of going about it. But suffering seems to be a road that most human beings have chosen because it's difficult for us, based on the environment that we're in, just to find stillness within ourselves. Because it's so much easier not to do that. And one of the reasons that I saw in my own life is that I had designed my life and everything around it to bring me comfort instead of having resilience. And what happens is we see it all the time and we know it. Don't you know someone in your family is going to die?
Yeah, of course.
Don't you know that eventually you will lose something? Don't you know that eventually someone will get sick? But we never prepare ourselves for these things, and we deny reality, and we live in an illusory state. And so when these things actually do happen, we suffer it immensely. You know, the Stoics had a really interesting thing for this. Marcus Aurelius, one of my favorite guys to read about, he had a practice. He had a sage that would walk around with him, and the sage's only purpose is every time Marcus Aurelius had a moment, he would come on Marcus Aurelius' ears and say, "You may die today. Today may be your last day. You may not make it." It's called memento mori. It's consistently reflecting on your mortality. Because the only reason why we strive at life is because we know death. And if you deny the darkness, it will catch up to you in incredible ways because you have no resilience for it. This is why I think the mind of society has become so fickle. Because we have pushed reality away. We've pushed our elderly into homes away from their home. We have moved everything away from what the world truly is and augmented our reality and glued ourselves to pornography and created, fictitious things. And, people only show the beauty and not the ugly. And it's just not real. That's not the real world. And if you believe that that's real, imagine what happens when the real world shows up. So, from my own life, to answer the question, my expertise doesn't come from almost 2 decades in the Marine Corps. My expertise doesn't come from all the books that I've read or personal development programs that I've taken. No, my expertise doesn't come from the amazing relationships that I've been able to foster and friendships that I've been able to hone. No, my expertise comes from the fact that the gun was loaded, my finger was on the trigger, the bolt was forward, while I was being attacked by my own mind. That's where my expertise comes from. I know what it means to not live a life on purpose. So believe me when I tell you, I know what it means to live a purposeful life. And I use that scenario, I use my experiences that led me to that deprivation now to provide inspiration.
That is so powerful. The image of what you just said was it just completely went through me. I wasn't expecting that. That was really a powerful situation. Wow. What a great talk we've had. I really was looking forward to this today. And I was so grateful that you're willing to come on for an extended period of time. Now, I want to bring back a point that you just raised about the idea of rejecting comfort. In a daily life, you had the BMW, the perfect color to pick up the chicks, if you will. So that day, or that day that you sold the car, and you rejected the comfort of that, asset. I'm sure you're selling a lot of your stuff to move overseas to start anew. Tell me a little bit about the intentional rejecting of comfort and making a transformation or renewing yourself when it in your definition, based on your life.
Right. So, like I said, I gave you the story about the car, but like I said, I didn't even realize that um, that one thing was so symbolic of my past, of the old version of me.
Mm-hmm.
But as I started to set the intention to becoming a trajectory instead of a destination, all these things started falling to the side. And the concept of letting go and making sure that, yes, of course, I enjoy some type of comfort, but not too much,
Mm-hmm.
because there's something that I say. It's actually a really old yogic chant. It says, Asatoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotir Gamaya, Mrityoma Amritangamaya, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. It means from darkness, bring me to light. From disillusion, bring me to more, reality. From immortality, bring me to mortality. And it's a really powerful chant that really reminds you that one can't exist without the other.
Yeah.
So if I purposefully seek pleasure every single day, guess what will show up eventually? Pain.
Pain. Yeah.
But if I consistently remind myself of discomfort, guess what will come back on the other end?
Pleasure.
Pleasure. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
It's great. So, and
Absolutely.
I'll tell you how this shows up incrementally.
Well, it's in physics, right? The
Right,
law of conservation.
right. Theory
Yeah.
of conservation of energy. It must happen. So, for example, I'm 40 years old now. I've been in the Marine Corps for almost 2 decades. And when I look at my peers, their bellies are all out to here. They're uncomfortable. They have bags on their eyes. Brother, I look exactly how I look in that picture.
Mm-hmm.
You can go on my Instagram and check. That's exactly how I look. And that's because I'm not seeking comfort. I'm not going to alcohol. I'm not going to coffee. I'm not going to sex. I'm not going to pornography. I'm not distracting myself with sports. Every single day, I take some time and I sit with the resolution that I know that I did things wrong in the past. I know I treated women wrong. This is why I talk about it so openly,
Mm-hmm.
because actually that's where my growth lies. That story I told you, I didn't tell that story because it's comfortable. I didn't tell that story because it brings me pride. I told you that story because it's outside of my comfort zone. And I know that just beyond the horizon of my effort lies an enhanced version of myself. And that's all I need to do to get there. Every single day, just take one step. Take a small step. Take one small step. It's not these giant leaps. People are trying to do these crazy things. You don't have to do that. Actually, what happens when you even look at people's bodies when they go to these extremes, they end up on the other side of it. They end up crushing themselves in life.
Mm-hmm.
Just take one small step. Just like Daryl talked about, just host one room. Just talk for 10 minutes. Just embrace one person. Give one gift. Do one push-up. Spend 5 minutes meditating. Write one page of journaling. Post one positive quote on social media. And before you know it, when you look back at all these small steps, you'll be on the top of a hill so great that you will be in touch with your own divinity.
Peter Lucas, you give so much. You're in line with your goal to help people evolve, and you've helped me evolve today. So I thank you for that, And I thank your partner too for giving some time of your relationship to be here with us today. If anybody wants to reach out to you to learn more about your life with purpose, life on purpose, how can they reach out to you?
Thanks for asking that question, Daryl. That's very gracious of you. Yeah, you can click on my photo, go on Instagram, take a look at the things that we have, most of in my bio. Our programs are called A Life on Purpose. And the story I gave, there's a reason for that, because I didn't know what a purposeful life was. And I want to make sure that, not many people have to go through the things that I do to realize they need to make a change. So I want to provide the tools and technology for them to do that. And all of these things are available. You can go check. But for me, if you truly want to connect, I'm exactly where you are, and I'm precisely where you would like to be. Because I've made a decision that is beyond your choosing, that I will be here for you as a conduit for evolution. Nothing less, and a whole lot more. That's where you can find me.
That is the divine. That is the divine coming through your voice right now. And we are all that unity. We are all that. Peter just put it into words for us today. And again, I really appreciate you. I appreciate this app that has brought us together. So thank you kindly from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to talk to us today.
100%, brother. Much love. I hope I'll have an opportunity to come back again sometime soon. Keep spreading the word. Keep hosting the rooms. We appreciate you, and the app is better because you're here. Peace.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Peter. All right, that's Peter Lucas. If you're listening on the recording, this is one of the recordings that I will cherish. Peter just gave a complete clinic and just enjoyed this conversation 100%. If you made it all the way through, congratulations. If you did not and you came late but you want to hear more, the recording will be in my profile and you can go ahead and check it out. Okay. So meditation and faith. I'm going to open up the guest line for just a few moments. If you want to respond to what you just heard with any kind of, thoughtful thoughts, we would greatly appreciate it. But we're gonna end it very soon here because what was just shared with us was just spiritual magic. It was just amazing, and I think that this app is here, that we were actually meeting each other. I was taking a chance. I put a beacon out there by talking on here, and Peter found it and just jumped on. And that's how we've been creating a dialogue offline to set this talk up. And here it is. And it was very enjoyable for me to go through this adventure with him to have this conversation. So we're going to leave it right here. Hope you enjoy.